I think when I got into politics, it wasn't really a conscious decision. It was just kind of one of those things. Like I had already had liberal views and left-leaning views, and it just kind of kept going. It kept like escalating or expanding, maybe perhaps I should say. The more ideas that I heard that appealed to me, the more I was like, yeah, like let's support that. And, a lot of the socialism type of stuff really, really appealed to me because the promise is that everyone will be taken care of. And that's what I wanted. I wasn't taken care of properly, so I wanted other people to be taken care of. But, when you think about it, when I look back in retrospect now, it's like, who does that? Well, if you don't have a good parent in your life, or you are an adult and you're not supposed to depend on your parent, well, who takes care of you if you're not taking care of yourself? Well, the next step up in authority would be the state, the government. And I think that's just kind of where it led to this idea that instead of people taking care of themselves, that they need to be cared for. And I think that's the biggest flaw, is we should be promoting personal responsibility. And it is interesting too, because even in my own life, I was taking on more responsibility and I was trying to do better. And I was trying to, really grow up and take on this adult role and learn. I had to learn a lot in that process because I wasn't given those skills and I wasn't taught those skills as a kid. So it's just a lot of that kind of thing where the more ideas I heard, the more I kind of shifted even farther left. And I was accepting things kind of at face value almost. I feel, looking back, like I was pretty naive and I was a vulnerable kid. And I think this ideology really preys on vulnerable people because they're more susceptible to believe a lot of the promises.
What happened? I mean, you moved into the leftist ideology. You described yourself as definitely on the woke side, looking for this utopia. However, now you realize that's not where you want to be and that's not where you've landed. And so like, what was the process for you to realize that this is not the future for me or my family or where I want to go? And where are you at today? And maybe talk a little bit about that journey of thought conversion that you've had.
Yeah, it was a long road. It was a lot of, mostly my husband, but other people too, kind of challenging my beliefs and pointing out the contradictions within them. And it wasn't like hostile or aggressive by any means. It was just like, I want to have a conversation about this. And then they would just bring up really good points. And I got to a point where I was like, man, like I keep getting proven wrong, but I would kind of like react out of anger. It was like, if I was proven wrong or my positions were criticized, it felt like it was a direct criticism of me because I was just very emotionally attached to all of these ideas. And I feel like you hear so much talk about like, people on the left claim that anyone basically who doesn't agree with the things that they're promoting are bad people. And that's repeated so many times. You just believe it. You don't think that somebody who is religious could be a good person, which is really interesting. And I was like a militant atheist too. So I was very hostile towards like religion and religious people, which makes me sad now because it's not productive whatsoever. And there was no reason for it. Like it didn't hurt, like religion never hurt me because I never had it. So it was an interesting contradiction there. But, I think that was just the biggest thing was just being kind of called out, but not in such a hostile way that I was unable to even acknowledge it or I just wrote it off. But it didn't happen overnight. It was just repeatedly having these conversations. And then, my husband and I sat down and we started watching content of just different creators, from conservative to like libertarian to like more philosophy and stuff like that. And that really got me thinking. And a lot of people brought up a lot of really good points. And that led me to doing more research and really looking into their claims and analyzing my own claims and the things that I had been hearing and then just kind of repeating almost in a sense. And then this process, then I started, I actually went way out of my comfort zone and I started listening to this kind of content, like just content I disagreed with on purpose. And I did that over and over and over. Like there's a lot of people who, at one point I could not stand, but I forced myself to listen because I felt it was important to understand what they believed in. And then over time, it just got like, okay, like there's not really a reason for me to be this hostile towards a different set of views, and people are bringing up good points. And the more research that I did, the more I was willing to really analyze my thinking and how I got there. And then basically going issue by issue, I just started changing my mind on a lot of different things. And I think that in entirety, the process took from about 2016 to 2019 is when I was like, okay, I can't really be associated with the left anymore. And I felt very politically homeless, and I wasn't sure what to call myself. I wasn't even sure what I was or where my views aligned best. And I think that's actually a problem, is like some people kind of view these political factions as like almost like their identity, when in reality, about a year after that, so somewhere in 2020, I kind of just realized like my views are aligning more with conservatives than anybody else.
But
And
who are some of those indirect mentors that were challenging your thought process? It sounds like they weren't in your life personally, like on a day-to-day basis, but you were listening to their thought and the things that they were teaching. Who are some of those people, and like what was being confronted in your own mind about the way you had conditioned your mind prior? And what was it about what they were saying that really impacted you?
Yeah, so it was a lot of like just like political figures or like kind of commentary people. Dave Rubin was a really big one. I listened to a lot of like Tim Pool, which is like more news stuff, but just kind of from a different lens, and more independent journalism. And then I really got into like the Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, which I could not stand these types of people for a very long time. It was rough forcing myself to watch them. Candace Owens was another big one. And then I kind of found like just more YouTubers, like Sydney Watson was a really big person. Like I think I found her around 2019, and that kind of really helped me, I don't know, just give me a little bit of peace of like, okay, I'm not insane. This like I'm seeing other people are seeing the same things that I'm seeing, because she talks a lot about that kind of stuff. She's not inherently conservative, but she's right-leaning. So a lot of those types of people. And then Jordan Peterson, I think, was one of the biggest influences of my mindset and kind of getting out of victim mentality. He also really helped broaden my view of religion and the good that it can do. And it's more like, he analyzes like biblical stories in a much more logical sense that I can understand a lot more. And he's not even really preaching about like, oh, you have to believe in this in entirety. He's saying this is the value within that. I think that's really impactful. And so there's a lot of people like that. And then I eventually found like Thomas Sowell, and I think all of these intellectuals and kind of commentators and stuff just really helped bring a more well-rounded point of view.
Yeah, as we look at this woke ideology, and it's, once you see it for what it is, it's all the same. It is like what Marx says in the very first sentence of the Communist Manifesto: the history of the world hitherto now is the same. Plebe against patriot, lord against serf, the bourgeois and proletariat, in a word, oppressor and oppressed. And so we see this mindset playing out, like of just causing division and adding to people's pain and trauma and hurt, and saying, for the feminists, all of your problems are due to the evil patriarchy. They are oppressing you, and look at the condition of your life as a result of the patriarchy. Or all Black people, it's because of the systemic racism, and you're a victim of the whites or the queer. It's the cisgender that are causing these problems. And so it's all the same stoking of division and hate and developing a victim mentality. You come with a different message of not allowing yourself to sit in that victim mindset. And so like those of you that are listening to this show, I really want you to grab this point, because life is hard and things happen and trauma happens and tragedy happens and suffering is real. It's part of this world. And it's good to come in contact and understand your trauma for what it is, but we must move on. You must move on and not sit in it. And so I'd like you to talk about that mindset that's so prevalent in the woke mentality of power dynamics and the oppressor and the oppressed, and why that is such a cancer to the soul, and how you see yourself now versus the trajectory you were your first 20 some years of your life.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest realizations that I had was that a victim mentality will never hurt, or it will never help you. It will only ever hurt you. So when I analyzed my life, like, had my remaining parent just tried her best to kind of get through her grief and not live within it and not constantly use it as an excuse to then make bad decisions, had she stepped up and made better decisions and realized, like, I have children that I need to care for and I need to do the best for them, and right now, like, need to keep moving forward, my life would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, because she lived in this victim mentality for so long, and she still does to this day. I've tried to help her. It just didn't go well. You know, she just continued to make her own life worse and worse and worse. I think that's the biggest thing, is when you're entrenched in this idea that nothing is ever your fault and you are just these circumstances of, you know, all of these circumstances are just happening around you and you're just the victim of that, then you also completely remove your own power to change it. Because if you get into this nihilistic point of view that nothing will ever get better, I'll never be able to change anything, I'll never be able to have an impact, I'll never be able to rise above this, then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you never will, because you're not giving yourself even the chance or the self-encouragement in order to do that. And I think especially when you have no one else to rely on, the only person that's consistent in that is yourself. And I think that was a big breakthrough that I had. And I've had moments in my adulthood where I've kind of slipped back into the victim mentality. I've been through depression, you know, I have anxiety, and every single day I'm working to reduce that and pinpoint what exactly is causing that and how to get over that. And I think that's one of the best things you can do, is just be very self-aware and analyze yourself.